The new tariffs are expected to deliver a blow to Canada's economy and the labour market. So looking into that this morning, senior correspondent and host of CBC Morning Live, David Common, with us this morning. Nice to see you on this Sunday.
Good to see you as well.
Okay, let's talk the sectors, because so many different sectors are impacted and not in the same way. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, there are different sectors that will be impacted in different ways. Some that will be lightly touched, others that will not be, and that will, according to economist Trevor Tombe, lead to job losses. If I bring up a board for you here, you get a sense of some of the impacts here. So plastics and rubber products manufacturing, when it says minus 4.6K, 4,600 jobs could be lost. I want to point out that this is not immediate. It is the effect over the long term of these tariffs pricing in. Furniture. Yes, we make furniture in this country, quite a bit of it that gets exported to the United States. 4,900 jobs there that would be impacted. You see the different colors there. The red, I'm colorblind, Marianne, so you might have to help me. There is red there,
There
right?
is definitely red, and so there's some blue.
There's some blue. That's very helpful. The red there indicating the direct job losses, the blue, the indirect. Computer and electronic product manufacturing, a big number there. It is one of the most exposed sectors that is primarily in British Columbia. And I would want to point out to you that when we talk about direct and indirect, so you think about some of those products that we see there in front of us. When we are talking about indirect losses, it's more about, for instance, the truckers. So if furniture is made or electronic products are made, well, somebody has to ship them. If there isn't product that's being shipped because it's now too expensive, there'll be job losses in that sector. And so, for instance, transportation looks at about 5,000 job losses.
Wow. Yeah, the trickle effect is amazing when you really expand to see the true effects and impacts here. And each province across the country impacted differently as well.
Absolutely. And look, Ontario, the most exposed when it comes to job losses from these particular tariffs. Why is that? Partly because of the industries that have been targeted, partly because Ontario is the most populous province. And so as I look at my indicators here, 36,000 jobs in Ontario could be lost again over time as these most recent tariffs get priced in. Already there have been job losses in Ontario in the auto sector and steel. We know that, we have seen that. And those aren't the only places. There are smaller businesses, of course, that are impacted. Quebec looking at a loss of 18,000 jobs, BC 11,000 jobs, Alberta 9,000 jobs. That is interesting to see because Alberta has relatively little exposure to these most recent tariffs, about 1% exposure, and yet the way it hits could cost about 9,000 jobs in that province. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, about 2,500 each. So, you get the sense when I look at Atlantic Canada, they're considerably smaller numbers. Nova Scotia, a bit more exposed than the rest of Atlantic Canada. But it does give you the sense that there is pain that is being felt unevenly across the country.
And we knew going into this, BC, Ontario, Quebec, they were going to be hit harder. But interesting to see those other provinces, Saskatchewan, Alberta, the impacts there, when you look at the direct impact of the tariffs, not as high as the other parts of the country.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about job losses, though, because Canadians hear that and they worry, what will that mean for our unemployment rate? We saw major job losses, of course, during the pandemic. Here we are now with these tariffs. What does that look like overall?
Look, I can sit here and I can say to you and I can say to folks, you're relatively well off in this particular province. But if you've lost your job because of these tariffs or previous tariffs, of course it matters to you. If you are a small honey producer, honey is being impacted here. You and I have talked to people in the honey industry, producers whose entire business is gone now because of these tariffs. That is a very personal thing. For you, the impact is 100%. But broadly speaking, Canada's economy has weathered this tariff storm better than some had expected. We have seen the unemployment rate, in fact, drop in recent months. Only ever so slightly. It has been relatively static, a bit of ups and downs since the imposition of Trump's tariffs at the beginning of his first term, his Liberation Day. Why is that? A whole bunch of reasons. The tariffs don't hit everything. That's part of it. A lot of the trade we do with the United States is still being respected by CUSMA, covered by CUSMA, and so is duty-free or close to duty-free. A lot of that is ongoing. It is still to this day. Part of it, too, is government programs to help support these industries, to keep people employed, perhaps in different ways. So there have been mitigation techniques that have been used. How long they can be used, because they require government borrowing, how long that can go on is another question. But we have weathered this, economists say, better than many had expected.
And Prime Minister Carney said that help is coming for Canadian families, Canadian workers and businesses. We don't know the exact details of what that help will look like, but that is supposed to be coming in the next few days.
And now we don't know what that will look like. I think the government is almost certainly working overtime this weekend trying to figure that out. We've seen programs for steel and softwood, aluminum, the auto sector to a certain degree, the auto sector, but there have been programs already for those heavily impacted sectors. Would there be something in the vein of what we saw during COVID? Almost certainly not, given some of the experience there. There's not just going to be something for everybody out there. Having said that, they've got to figure out the right balance here to try to keep that resiliency inside the economy.
Yeah, some kind of certainty, at least financially, for some of these families and businesses. Thanks so much, David.
Thank you.